It's not even a credit card. This is a charge card, which means in 30 days, I got to pay the whole balance. A lot of people get in trouble. You start seeing celebrities in their bankruptcies and people who won the lottery, whatever. You see this credit card stuff because they thought this was an extension of their wallet. It's not meant to be an extension on your annual compensation.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another recording of the Stacky Benjamin Show. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and I'll be introducing these people that we're bringing up on stage right now in just a moment. But during the recording, feel free to say hi, introduce yourself, tell us where you're hanging out with us from, and feel free to participate. Hopefully we'll be able to come to you a few times during today's session. This is going to be the end of a week where we're discussing this woman's work, Lorraine Lee. She says that, you know what, you need to work on your career branding. And if you roll your eyes like I did when I heard about career branding, Lorraine responded to me. She's like, well, if you're not paying attention to your career brand, you still have one, but it probably sucks. So we're ending the week by talking about missteps and people that made their careers, some great stories that all of these fine people have. So sit back, relax, and we're going to make the sausage, as it were. Doug, you ready to?
Delicious.
Jesse is 9 years old. I swear to God. He said sausage. All right. Doug, you ready to do this?
I'm hungry.
I just got to crack a beer first.
Oh, God. Yeah. What is it really?
It is my new favorite flavor of seltzer water, key lime.
Key lime seltzer water.
Yeah. There's just a little creaminess to it.
All right. Well, let's let her rip.
Jesse didn't laugh at that. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and this week we've been helping you improve your career trajectory. And today you can't put those two words together. 3, 2, 1. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and this week we've been helping you improve your career trajectory. And today, well, we'll polish it off with 3 people who've successfully navigated careers of their own. We'll talk missteps, unforced errors, and strategic genius in the office. But that's not all. We'll pause briefly halfway through for today's edition of our year-long trivia challenge. And now, a guy who might have just hit the pause button on an Xbox just to come join us. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Oh, no. Not in the middle of a work day. Although I have been playing this cool new game, Doug, called South of Midnight. I don't know if you've seen that game yet.
But I'm sure you'll suck me into that.
Some fantastic goodness. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. I am Joe Saul-Sehy, and we've got a fantastic way to end Career Branding Week. We're going to share some salaciousness, some amazing things people have done to blow up their career that you may be able to learn from, and then sometimes when people might have made their career. We've got the perfect people for that. We'll introduce our guest of honor last, but let's start off with a guy across the card table from me who's had a whole career in financial planning. Mr. OG's here. How are you, man?
It's like I've had 2 careers in financial planning. It's been so long.
Well, you and I, way back in the day, in our American Express days, we saw some stuff. We saw some people blow up some careers pretty well.
I don't have any. I don't have any memories of any of that stuff, honestly.
You blocked it all out.
Yeah, I mean, totally have. And I mean, I when I was thinking about this, I was thinking more kind of broad brushstroke of like ways to do it, not any particular stories. So
Yeah.
I'll be interested to hear you tell me the things that I should have remembered from the 90s because it was a while ago. So I flush all that stuff. You know that. It's like like I don't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone what happened to office mate 27 years ago.
It is interesting though, OG, because like you read about financial planning. I remember a great piece. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal way back when during that time. And they were talking about Bill Clinton and the whole Monica Lewinsky thing from a financial planning perspective, which was interesting because at the time they said that, presidents make a ton of money writing their memoirs and you have all of these income seeking opportunities. Would Bill Clinton, from a modeling standpoint, as a financial planner, could you model him making any money after his presidency, which of course he did.
Turns out he did okay.
It turns out he did all right. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
What? Too soon to talk about this?
He is a gozillionaire and he don't have to worry about money no more.
Yeah, but just imagine the financial planning nightmares that happen from blowing up your career.
Yeah.
Speaking about a guy whose career's blowing up as we speak, but in a good way, Mr. Jesse Cramer's here. How are you, man?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. If it seems like I'm talking kind of slowly, it's because I'm lagging behind by 10 or 15 or 20 seconds at a time. Other than that, other than the time warp between us, I'm doing quite well.
Yeah, you're not doing the time warp the fun way, like it's midnight at your local movie theater with a Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Correct. I'm not doing it that way. I'm doing it the unfun way. It's just me in my office alone.
Wouldn't it be wild if on these Stacking Benjamins episodes, like people threw rice and toast and what else they throw, like toilet paper? Like we could have our whole own thing. I don't know.
We'll save that for the next 1,600 episodes, maybe.
Maybe. And a woman who makes the show every time she's here, the woman behind the Elevate conference, also the woman who was the creator of Yes, I Am Cheap, the woman who, speaking of cheap, came on this show and talked about her doing her wedding for, I don't even remember the number, Sandy.
$5,000 in New York.
Yeah, $5,000 in New York. Sandy Smith is finally back. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you've grown a couple more hairs.
Well, I think I've lost some. I don't know.
I like that little dusting going on top there.
Yeah, thanks.
It adds a little je ne sais quoi.
It always takes Sandy like 47 seconds to start making fun of me.
I'm losing my edge. 47 seconds? What's going on?
So Sandy, lately, and I thought of you. I wrote you because I thought of you immediately with this topic. Sandy's seen a person or two blow up their career in her lifetime working in HR.
Once or twice.
Yeah, I'm super happy that you can be here with us. You've got a conference coming in July. Tell us about what's on tap for July in Sandy Smith.
Yeah, the Elevate conferences are usually a series of workshops once a year. Most years that focuses on the intersection of money and some other topic. So in the past, it's been about Black Wall Street. This year, it is Elevate the 92%, focusing on the 92% of Black women who voted for Kamala Harris and how we can improve their financial lives specifically. Because there is a common thread there about how Black women vote en masse, which is not the same as the rest of the United States. So I want to explore that a little bit more with an eye towards finance, always towards personal finance.
Awesome. And that's, well, everything you do, I think always has that edge, there's a financial literacy edge.
Yes.
Where can people get more?
Elevate the 92%. It's Elevate the 92% spelled out.
Awesome. We'll link to it in the show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Today, we're going to tell some stories that hopefully will elevate all our stackers to maybe not do maybe not do some of the things that you're going to hear about in the next 30 minutes. So sit back. We've got a couple of sponsors that make sure this is free so that you don't have to pay for any of this goodness that you're about to hear. Let's hear from them. And then we're going to talk about some career missteps. Let's go. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. The scene is set. I'm just going to go right to the professor here, Sandy Smith. Sandy, what is a no-no that people, maybe a story that somebody may be able to learn from that you probably shouldn't do if you want to have a successful career brand?
So I've been in HR for over a decade, secretly. I've had like dual careers going on at the same time. And so lately, since many non-DAs have expired, I have been sharing some stories, and that's what Joe has seen from my years in HR, and people definitely blowing up their careers and crazy stuff. So probably one that I'm going to mention now is one that I shared, and it's about relationships at work. So
looking at you, Doug.
I mean, Doug is irresistible. Come on. You're spending a lot of time at work. And, it is natural that you're going to maybe have a connection with somebody at work. It happens. And, as a HR professional, we know that it happens. That's just normal, par for the course. However, if you sit on high and you have a relationship with someone on low, you should not be using your influence at that job for that person. So the story that I shared recently was somebody in the C-suite who formed a relationship with somebody who was very, very, very junior in a different department. And that was enough to like have the red flags going off already.
Was it public, or was it just everybody knew, but nobody talked about it?
Exactly. Everybody kind of knew, but didn't talk about it. See no evil, hear no evil, whispers are going on. If I don't know it exists, I don't know it exists. However, it couldn't be ignored when somebody in the department for the junior person resigned, and in their exit interview, they mentioned this relationship causing a toxic environment in their department.
Really? Why?
Then employment law kind of had to get involved, because not only when we dug in, that C-suite person was putting undue stress onto that person who they were dating's direct manager. So if that manager asked that person to do something and they didn't like it, they would complain to their C-suite boyfriend, who would then approach the manager, right? And so the manager felt that they could not manage this person anymore. And because they could not manage this person anymore, it impacted the department, the entire department. So if you're going to have a relationship with somebody at work, it'll happen. Do not be the person in the relationship that is in a very senior position, number one. Pretend it doesn't exist at work. You guys separate church and state. Do not ever have it impact any work that you're doing. And most definitely do not have a direct reporting relationship at work. This is a C-suite person with a base $500,000 base salary plus stock, equity options.
Former C-suite person.
That's exactly what happened. He was gone. Okay. And because of why he was gone, we could not even give him the severance that was normally in his golden parachute. Okay.
Couldn't even get the severance.
Not the full severance to which he was entitled in his golden parachute. Okay. So, and finding a C-suite level job takes some time, right? So, and people are going to want to know what happened at the last place. And he wasn't here that long. That was the other thing as well. People are going to want to know what happens in the last place. And wherever you are, the industry is smaller than you think. The city is smaller than you think. People talk, people know each other. And whether you like it or not, or whether you think it or not, it will get around. So
relationships at work just in general are
I would never. But then I have seen it successful. I've had two colleagues who got married, but they were in two separate departments. They were on the same level. They never, even when they were dating, it was not, in the office, it wasn't in your face. They would, go out after work. They would occasionally they would have lunch together outside of the office. And it was fine. No issues. They did not interfere with anything within. They kept it very, very like quiet. But then they were Japanese. So that was a different culture shock, a different culture anyway. So it can work. It can be successful, but not in this case. And not if you're a senior person and you're using your influence on that person's manager.
Have you, Jesse, have you seen relationships at work, either work or not work?
Good question. Yeah,
Jesse's like, no comment. On advice of counsel, I've been
don't stop picking on me, Joe.
To plead the fifth.
I'm going back to my old. I mean, right now I work in a relatively small office of 40, but I'm going back to my old job where I was in a engineering office of like 1,000. And yeah, there were some relationships there that definitely worked, including some that were pre-existing before I started working there, and people who'd been married for decades plus at the time. So it definitely can work. But at the same time, I think there's always that. I mean, power dynamics in general, and I think that's what Sandy was getting at, is like whenever there's a power dynamic, sometimes it's the perception of one. Sometimes it can be like, well, technically no one is anyone else's superior, but this person has been there a lot longer, and it seems like they have more responsibility and they have the ability to do favors for someone else. And even that alone is where you kind of get into some gray area.
Yeah. OG, how about you? Have you seen relationships at work?
Well, we've always been a small firm, so none that I can think of. But I can also see this, not even just in a relationship in this context, but also like your kid comes to work for you, and just being aware of how that looks. And I mean, even if you work at a big company that's hard to get into, and your kid gets a job, even if they didn't connect the dots, right? It's like, it's still going to be like, well, yeah, your dad's the senior VP. It's like, no, I went to this great school. I tried really hard. It's like, yeah, okay. Yep. Okay. But also your dad's the VP, or whatever. And it's like, even just that appearance of that, I think you have to really do you have to work really hard to guard against any sort of even appearance of impropriety at any level, whether it's a, sexual relationship or that sort of thing, or if it's just a parent-child relationship,
nepotism,
or any sort of nepotism type thing. So be aware of it anyway.
I saw a small business, a financial planning business, where a dad brought in his daughter, and he had before that a whole succession plan before he found out his daughter wanted a piece of the company. And when that happened, it just wrecked morale in the entire company.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that
she came out of nowhere.
I mean, my kids have both of my boys have said something about it, just kind of casually, like, well, maybe I'll just go work for you one day. And while that would be super cool, there's more to it than just show up to work and, let's hang out and have fun, I've worked with my brother before, and that was a different dynamic, and we're really close. And it was very weird to kind of go, okay, at lunch we can be bros, but from 9 to 11:30 and from 12:30 to 5, you have to be the associate. And it's just hard. It's just,
and that's why I would never hire family or have them in the same company that I was in.
Yeah,
I remember I was interviewing at a company for another HR position, and I didn't realize that one of my cousins worked there. And when I was, you do research on the company when you're interviewing, and there he was on the website, and I was like, oh, can't do it. I can't. Yeah. And so I withdrew from consideration. They were like, why? And I said, I have a family member who works there. Now, had I talked to my cousin in a while? Absolutely not. I probably hadn't talked to him like 5 or 6 years. But the fact that even that we had this fully family relationship, I don't want his mom calling me up. You know what I mean?
Why did you lay off my kid?
Exactly. Because that happens. Right, I've had to lay friends off, people who I consider friends. Can you imagine if it was a family member?
Yeah.
Well, just think about, like the pressure of the girlfriend's boss, that the girlfriend's boss felt that, because after hours going out to dinner with boyfriend, who's the CEO, and next thing you know, it shows up in your performance eval. You're like, oh, how did this stuff happen? I remember a relationship when I was with American Express. The manager of an office and his office manager. So this guy was in charge of the office. He was the district manager, but the woman that was in charge of like the support staff, so his office manager, they were having a relationship. And here's a lesson, which is the woman in charge of the support staff sent out an email to the district manager that said, "Hey, where do you want to go to dinner tonight?" And these two worked together nonstop. Nobody knew that anything was going on. In fact, if she had left that email alone, there would have been no big deal. Like, I think 99.9% of us thought, oh yeah, the two of them are just going out to dinner to talk about work stuff. That's fine. But then Sandy, she decided to withdraw the email. She tried to withdraw it. And it was the nature of withdrawing that email that all of a sudden the entire office goes, oh, what the hell's in that email? And then I wasn't even paying attention until I saw the withdrawal request. And then I said, what's she trying to withdraw? And I saw she was trying to withdraw a dinner with the manager. And I went, oh, this is a whole different thing than we thought. The good news is now they've been married for a long time. It worked out. And frankly, the office still ran the way that it ran before.
But what happens when it doesn't work out and the relationship goes sour, right? Yes. That's the other thing. And yeah, it can be very awkward.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. Yes.
Joe, did you make any judgments about them based on the restaurant that they were going to that night, or did that not cross your mind?
Dude, Applebee's. Really? That's all you can do is Applebee's?
It's the neighborhood place, Doug. Come on.
Sizzler.
Yeah. No, I did not. But you know, it's funny, Jesse, to that point, and Sandy, to your point too, I did begin judging them when they were having this relationship, because I was like, what are they talking about? How is this affecting everybody? How is this affecting us? Because, you know, they have this extracurricular activity going on. Jesse, what's another spot where somebody might have stepped into the danger zone?
The one that I think of from some experience is chronic negativity, chronic cynicism, which maybe in and of itself is just a reason for someone a way that someone can sabotage their own career. But even there are some cases where I guess what I'm saying is, like, if we can picture someone who's always negative, like, yeah, they're probably self-sabotaging. But there are some cases where they think they're being helpful, like they think they're being the helpful critic, but they don't realize how negative or how constant they're coming off with their criticisms. And that ends up shooting themselves in the foot because someone else or someone above them in the food chain just kind of gets sick and tired of this constant stream of criticism. It just ends up, you just have to be careful with it, is all I'm saying. Like, you know, everyone knows that a good employee hopefully is trying to improve the company and make things better, improve the systems. And that can include some constructive criticism, but there's a line that we all need to be careful about crossing.
I had a family member that, from what I heard, this family member was recently let go for questioning the finances of her boss. So to your point, Jesse, and this person has a history of being outspoken, and sometimes in a very negative way. And the more comfortable she gets with you, the more negative she'll become and kind of pick on your life. And when you pick on your boss's life, no matter what you think, like it, just maybe a bridge too far.
Yeah, praise in public, chastise in private, right? You know.
Well, and this OG, I think, is a lesson that for me, I had a mentor talk to me about this, and I actually had to talk to a direct report of mine about this. And this mentor of mine said, beware clusters of misery. And this is groups of people at work that get together and like to bitch about the company culture. And every big company has this cluster of people. This particular woman that worked for me would go on smoke breaks, which I was fine with. But the people that she would hang out with at the smoke break, she'd always come back negative. She always knew about all the company gossip that had nothing to do with us helping our clients make any money. And I just had to caution her. I'm like, beware those people. Like, I don't care about you, whatever you do. I'm just giving you a little bit of career advice. I would not spend that time with those people, because those people every time make you negative and cross, and then it takes you forever to refocus. Sandy, nodding your head. You must see these clusters of misery everywhere.
Oh yeah, because that perception will wash over whoever's in that vicinity, right? If you know, and I'll say that typically your HR team knows who the squeaky wheels and who the really negative people are. They know. And if they see that there's more or other people hanging with the same group of negative people, they're going to assume that that's also your thought process as well. And whether it's valid or not, there's like a strike in the back of their heads, right? And is it the right thing? No, we're all human. We all have our biases, but that will creep in whether you know it or not, or whether they know it or not. There's unconscious bias, and it might impact you in a negative way, just because you're hanging with people who other people perceive to be like that.
Yeah, we talked about this on Wednesday's show that people can't, sometimes we call it shallow, but you just can't help it. I see you with a person who's the constant complainer. I immediately think that maybe you're a complainer too, or maybe you believe what that person believes.
Exactly. It's a contagion. Now, are you spreading throughout the office, right? And typically you want that contained. And those are the people, when there's a reduction in force, magically,
weird,
they're on that list,
Weird how that happens. OG, what's one you've got?
So again, I was thinking more of a big, broad brushstroke of this, and I was thinking about the idea of chasing whatever seems to be hot, at the moment. Like, and I'm thinking about this in the context of a personal, the personal brand component of it. And it like 1 minute you're, a finance guy. The next minute you're talking about hustle culture. The next minute, you're all about like calmness and serenity and mindfulness. It's like, what are you trying to be an expert in, or what are you trying to be, focused in or focused around? Like, what's your message? If you're going to be this, like you were talking about before, if you don't have a personal brand, you have one, you just don't, it just sucks. Like if are you the hustle guy or gal? Are you the finance, bro? Like what is your thing? And if you keep on moving all the time, if you keep on bouncing around between whatever happens to be top of your social channel today, then nobody knows what to, nobody has any trust. Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? What's your message? What are you, it's okay to kind of go with different trends, but you still have to be who you are.
I had a guy early in my career at American Express who did that. He was always the different guy every week. And you could tell he was trying to find his way. He was just doing it very publicly, like today I'm this, and he was 100% this person. And then 2 weeks later, he's 100% that person. It's funny because he hasn't changed I don't know him that well, but we're friends on LinkedIn and Facebook and social media. And still, when I see this guy, I still think of him as the guy who is changing every third week. And I haven't known him for 20 years and I still think of him that way. Yeah. Very difficult. Doug, you spend a lot of time in corporate America. What's a public career blow up? Somebody nuke their own career that you've seen?
Well, I have a funny story that was a blow up, but I also have my own personal advice of things that, or a thing that kind of definitely derailed me for a little while, not totally, but a little while. But the funny story is, be careful of your humor, because your humor is not everybody else's humor. And there was a guy that was a peer of mine who was leading a portion of the technology team, was having a meeting with a vendor, and in walked somebody who reported to him, happened to be a woman who was very small physically. I mean, I don't think she was 5 feet tall, and she's just a small person. And for some unknown reason, this guy decides to say in front of the vendor who was sitting in his office, "I've crapped bigger than you."
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
No.
Could not believe it. And
I love how the woman from HR, Sandy, responded to that.
Yeah.
No.
Sandy wants a meeting with him right now.
Immediately.
Well, it's not like we didn't respond, Joe.
Do not Pass go. Do not collect $200.
It's
Please
not
go to
even
the
in
7th
Sandy's
floor.
company and she wants to meet with him.
Just a
That's how bad
classic
that one
story.
is.
That's
We got
so
HR
bad.
managers from 7 different companies that want to meet with you now.
And after, he never really talked about hunting. We're here in Michigan, lots of people hunt. But oddly, he was gone for a whole week during hunting season for the next couple of years.
Huh.
And it was because he got sent off to sensitivity training for as long as he was with the company. And they just scheduled it hunting season just to give him cover. But so be careful of when you think you're being funny, you might not be. I find that out every week on this show. I get told and taken to our HR department in the corner of the basement every week. But the other thing that I was going to talk about, and both you and OG just kind of touched on it, was think about the kind of manager you want to be known as. If you get promoted into a management level position, it's very easy, especially in your first 1 or 2 management roles. It's very easy to get drawn into being the people manager rather than the mission manager. And what I mean by that is you feel like in order to get your team behind you, you have to create these personal relationships with people and try to solve their problems for them. And that's what, to OG's point a second ago, that's what you're going to get known as. So then when it comes time to really buckle down and say, this is the mission of this team, this is what we have to accomplish, you may not get the reaction you want because of the type of relationship you've developed for the preceding, 6 months, a year.
You mean people are saying she or he is soft? I don't really need to do this.
Well, or they know I've got a different, maybe if it's not that they're soft, but that I've got this, I'm a little tighter with that person. I can I don't have to react the same way. When they say jump, I don't have to say how high. And I found that out because I had a career path plan, deliberate plan, from shortly after college, that I would rather have been a bigger fish in a smaller pond. So I deliberately worked for small to mid-sized companies on purpose, knowing that way I would get really broad experience, so that when I got a little bit older and I wanted to move to larger global companies, that I would have this great breadth of experience. That part all worked great. But the downside was, in the smaller company, you get promoted early. If you're any good, you get promoted earlier. I got promoted into leadership positions I was not ready for. And so I was too young and I didn't have the experience to be leading 112 people in my mid 20s. And so I kind of leaned on the personal side of management, and it really made things difficult.
You see that with young managers a lot, Sandy?
Yes, I was just about to say, especially now, because the current generation, sometimes I feel like it's us against the company kind of a thing, and they relate very, very closely to the folks who work for them. It is a cultural shift, and I actually don't think it's a negative thing per se, because they do relate to each other in a different way than, say, my generation, Gen X, would to somebody who's, my sister's generation, who's Gen Z. But I think there is a danger of being too familiar, because when it comes to really having to have tough conversations, then it becomes very difficult. Then it's like, dude, you're my friend. We just had beers last night,
That's
kind
right.
of thing,
Yeah.
right? And they find it very difficult to draw the line when it's been blurred the entire time. The line hasn't existed.
Can we talk about beers last night? Because that's the one that I wrote down that we haven't gotten to. I wanted to make sure that nobody else brought this up. I will tell you what I've seen in my career has been, remember the company holiday party. You're still with people from the company.
I have written about this so many times.
I
don't
seen,
go to
Sandy,
company parties.
so many careers destroyed at the company holiday party.
I stopped going to company holiday parties about 6 or 7 years ago on purpose, because once I was HR and I had a responsibility, I didn't want to be responsible
Hear
anymore.
no evil, see no evil.
I don't want to go. I stopped going to, I literally stopped going to company
Did
holiday
you see what
parties.
Nancy was doing in the bar?
What was she
No, I
wearing? Who was drunk? Who do I have to call a car for? Who's hooking up in this corner? Who's on that drug? Who's on this drug?
Man,
it sounds
Insane.
Like, this is
Awesome parties.
Hold on. I'm asking for a friend, but when would be the next company party?
I have had.
Sounds like a fun time.
I had a colleague get propositioned to be part of a threesome at the company party with one of the VPs and their spouse.
Sounds about right.
Go on.
I know a woman who is showing off her new implants at
Purchases. That's very popular. I definitely had that happen.
After she was drunk, she was showing them off. I have seen I'll even tell you who this is, because this was a big, I don't even know this person. I wasn't at the company party, but I heard Lester Holt, the
anchor,
or the
Dateline guy,
anchor, was so drunk at the NBC holiday party, and he sang karaoke, that I heard about how horrible it was. Like, I wasn't even at that party. And this has become like a cultural thing where everybody knows that Lester Holt
hold on. I was down for all of these crazy stories until you started saying karaoke is not okay.
Karaoke can be okay, but apparently Lester made it pretty bad. So here's a guy that wanted.
Was he singing a Rod Stewart song?
Here's a guy who at the time wanted to be an anchor, right, at NBC News, and I have heard in publications that affected his ability to move up. Was people? I mean, he finally made it, and I think we all know him and how responsible he is. But yeah, Lester and karaoke. More people are going to hear about what happened at the holiday party than you want.
Holiday party.
Yes, even people who are not there. We'll hear about it, because I always hear about stuff at the holiday party. It's like, hey, wasn't there, unless somebody comes and complains about something at the holiday party. I don't know what happened.
Didn't happen, right? Well, something that does happen every week on this show is halfway through, we have this year-long trivia competition. So we're going to pause for a second and jump into this, because Sandy, today you are going to play for Team Paula Pant. We have 3 frequent contributors. OG's here every week. Jesse, we got Team Jesse and Team Paula. So you're representing Team Paula. Do you want the good news, Sandy, or the bad news about where you're standing so far in 2025?
Okay, throw me the bad news. Let's go.
Well, I don't know if it's bad news or good news. The bad news is Paula's in last place. That's where Paula generally spends our trivia competition. She's got 2.5 points. Jessie she did have only 1.5 points, but she won last week.
Okay. Progress.
Jessie, 3.5 points. OG has 5. So with a win today, you could be in second place, still in last, but in second place. If Jesse wins, he finally put some pressure on OG. If OG wins, oh God, no, let's not even consider that. So those are the stakes. Sandy, you're going to guess last. That's the good news. Jesse, you'll guess in the middle. OG will go first. We need a trivia question though, Doug. What's on tap this beautiful Friday?
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we're helping you zip up your career. Maybe, as mom says, by remembering to zip up that mouth.
At the holiday party, especially.
Yeah. The zipper was an innovation in more ways than one. Not only does it help keep tents closed and purses protected, it also keeps your privates private. Except when the worst happens, as we saw in a film that earned tons of Benjamins way back in '98, that gave us the poetic line, "We have a bleeder." Here's today's question. How often does that something about Mary problem actually happen? And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, let me lay it out there for you. How many Americans go to the hospital in an average year for zipper and related injuries? I'll be back right after I figure out how to say that question without crossing my legs.
Yeah, that hurts. Something about Mary. Sandy, have you seen Something About Mary?
This is a 90s film, isn't it?
1998. Yeah. Going way back.
I never watched it.
No? Well, that's fine. But the "we have a bleeder" line is exactly what you think it was.
Yep.
Jesse, have you seen this movie?
So, yeah, Ben Stiller and Cameron Diaz. Am I thinking of the right movie?
Yeah, Cheryl and I actually watched it in a hotel room, and then we were on the elevator. It had just come out, and it was new to the like hotel, movie scene.
Are you really telling this story?
We get in the elevator and Cheryl takes her hand and goes like this. And the people in the elevator go, "You just watched Something About Mary." Cause hair gel. But anyway, yes. OG, you've seen
I didn't
this
watch
movie.
it, but even I know that scene.
You know that's it. I think the We Have a Bleeder scene is a close second. So OG, in an average year, how many people go to the hospital due to zipper and
I think that this has got to be
injuries?
largely children. I have distinct memories as a child of having this happen. No less than twice. The old footy pajamas will get you every time. Yeah, that's a big long zipper, and you just you get the momentum going from the ankle, and it just bang, just jumps up to get you. It's like a rattlesnake. The average number of Americans that go to the hospital for zipper-related incidences is it's going to be 74,319.
74,319 people on average.
On average.
Per year.
Yes. Sandy, is your hand up to ask a question?
That's a lot of people who don't wear underwear. Okay.
Doug's not wearing underwear right now.
World.
Jesse, what are you gonna do with
HR
that?
because of it.
I'm gonna go lower than OG. My first instinct was in the thousands. I'm gonna say 3,500. 3,500 per year.
You're going way lower. Way lower.
I mean, 75,000 is a lot. I mean, that means over 10 years, it's happening to, close to 1 million people.
Well, like Doug said, while we were planning this segment, everybody's got a story.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody's got a story, but this is a hospital visit.
Yeah, that's
this
a serious story.
Again, sorry, Sandy, if this is too much, but this isn't like a little like pinch and go. Like, oh, all right, time to get back to work now. This is like I have to stop work, call the ambulance. Exactly.
Because we have a bleeder. Yeah.
Correct.
I have had to extricate a cousin from one of these.
My goodness.
I have a little bit of experience with this.
Did they go to the hospital or not?
There was a lot of screaming, but no hospital.
The good news is that Jesse thinks a lot more people wear underwear. So, yes.
What did I end up saying, Doug?
3,500.
All right. Good.
All right, Sandy, here's what you got. 74,319 from OG, 3,500 from Jesse.
Jesse stole my answer because I'm thinking like 10 people a day. Like you've got to really be, yanking on that zipper really quickly to warrant a hospital visit. And having had to unzip and scissor my cousin out of this.
That was unnecessary.
Oh, God.
I want to go to HR.
As I'm here with 4 men. I'm a mom of 1 son, and thank God I haven't had to do this with him yet. Because I never want to do that again. One time was enough in my life.
Is that why you didn't take that job, Sandy? Was it that cousin? I wouldn't take the job either.
I've seen the bits.
Like I haven't talked to him in 6 years. Why? Well, it involved a zipper.
I will say we were younger. I was the older cousin.
Come up in the trivia later, right?
I was the older teenage cousin, and he was a little younger, and I had to. I was babysitting, so I had to. Get him extricated. 74,000 is way too many people. That's a whole lot of momentum and a whole lot of meat. And I just don't think that's happening. I'm sorry, you're taking me back to when I had to do this. Have you guys ever had to do this? You probably have.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm going back to when I had to help my cousin out to get this. It can't be that many people because he didn't have to go to the hospital. You just had to be very careful and had to he lost a pair of pants. That's it. And I was like in Jesse's area, like 10 people a day. So can we be close? Can we go like 3,000 people?
One under. That is a common tactic to go one over or one under somebody.
I'll go a little under. Where are you at? 3,500. Let's go 3,000 because there can't be that many people with that much stuff
or junk.
Yes.
Let's lock those in. This might be the weirdest trivia we've ever done. Maybe. We're going to find out.
In my stomach right now.
We're going to find out who's right. We'll be right back. Oh my God. All right, here we go. 3. We got a couple people in the chat. Let's see.
They are disturbed.
Maybe they've had to extricate somebody from their own zippers.
3, 2, 1. All right, we performed this live on YouTube, and the comments are coming in. Mike says, "What is going on?" And Tina says, "How'd you get the beans above the Frank?" I know. Don't even want to know. So OG started us off with 74,319 people have zipper-related incidents. Both Jesse and Sandy thought you were way off, OG. What are you thinking?
No clue.
Got him?
It's way off. Yeah.
Jesse 30. I know. I think we all do. Jesse 3,500. Sandy stole the downside. You feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm in the ballpark. You know, the ballpark.
Sandy is. Sandy is Paula going to win this one?
I hope so. Every time I'm here, I've won for Paula. So let's keep the streak going.
Here we go, Doug. Let's see if the.
Although I don't know if I want to win this one, though. I don't know.
Or is it Team Jesse getting closer to OG or OG pulling away?
Hey there, stackers. I'm Band-Aid lover and guy who suddenly loves button-fly jeans, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Today, we're zipping up our trivia with a question about the zipper. Ironic, isn't it? The zipper actually might not be as old as you think. It was created in 1913 as a separatable fastener by a guy named Gideon Sundback. I still thank him daily for his modern miracle, mostly because I've never had a zipper accident and had to rush to the hospital. But today's question is, how many people do have to go to the hospital for zipper-related incidences in an average year? Well, I'm not going to give you the answer right away, but I will tell you that it was 72,319 less than the evil empire OG. It was 1,500 less than Jesse and just 1,000 fewer than what Sandy/Paula guessed. Keeping Sandy's streak alive, she has won for Paula. The actual answer is 2,000 people, poor souls per year.
Yes, so you guys need more experience unzipping the zipper.
No,
Sandy, that was not. Paula definitely would have taken the over. She definitely would have taken the over. You did not do Paula well right there, but congratulations on the win.
I think I had the edge because I've had to do this, and you guys haven't had to do it. So,
I will learn from your experience. Kind of like we were doing with those people blowing up their careers. I don't want any part in that. But 2,000 is a much better number. It gives you hope for humanity. This doesn't happen that much. So, yeah. All right, let's get on with something maybe a little better, which is, let's talk. We talked about the downsides because those are salacious tales. Let's talk about people who maybe made their career with something that they did, something pretty badass they did. Sandy, let's stick with you. What's something you saw where somebody really did something pretty amazing that catapulted them career-wise?
You know, I don't think you guys are going to agree with me on this one because it isn't an amazing thing per se. It is a personality trait. I think people don't realize that the more likable you are, the more your chances of improving your career. What do I mean by that? You don't have to be the smartest in the room. You do not have to know everything. You do not have to be the person picking up all the things. You have a better chance of success if people find you to be likable. Okay. If you're not the difficult person to work with, if you've got the can-do attitude, if you come in, you're a ray of sunshine, you are smiling, they like working with you, you stand a chance of having more opportunities presented to you than if you are just a hard worker with your head down because you're not noticeable. And I know that's not something that, you know, is going to blow everybody's minds or whatever, or something that you want to hear. You want something tangible. Oh, study this, do that, do this amazing thing. No, be that likable person that people love working with. And I promise you, your career stands a better chance of improving better, faster than people who are working hard at their jobs.
But I'm glad you said that because that's what we spent the whole week doing. You know, was talking Sandy specifically about that, because you know, on on Monday, we led off with relationships matter, and being in the right meetings and taking part in groups that have nothing to do with your job, being a cheerleader for other people. Like all of those things elevate people. OG, you and I know somebody like this, Chris. Chris was actually really good at his job, but I thought, OG, when you and I worked with Chris back in our American Express days, that what you led with was he was one of the most likable guys you could possibly meet.
Yeah, good guy to have in your corner. That's for sure.
Yeah, always a cheerleader too, OG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Problem solver. Like you it didn't have to be necessarily work related, but it was. I felt like maybe he was always like a connector, right? Like, oh, you know what? Who's good at this is this person. Let me get you guys together and see if that won't spark a conversation.
And this is actually, Chris is an interesting case study, because I remember hearing from some more senior executives that people above him in the corporate chain kind of saw him as a goofball. Mm-hmm. But like a management consultant, Tom Peters, said that true leadership comes from the people that are your employees, your direct reports. Like they're the ones that will get you promoted in a big way. And Chris ended up getting some fantastic promotions later on. It was mostly because the people that work for him were always his biggest cheerleader, because he was always helping them. So Sandy, I think this guy, Chris, is exactly like the model of who you're avoiding clusters of misery, Sandy, I think.
Yes, you being the opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is. And I've benefited from that myself. Like I've had managers who I worked with previously at this current job that I have right now. The manager literally picked up the phone and said, I want you here with me at this current place. And because we'd worked together before, didn't even interview anybody else, right? I know what you're capable of. I know like your personality. I don't have to worry about anything. And it was literally just come meet the CFO and you're in. And they even waited, because I was working on a major project in my former employer. I was like, hey, I want to leave with a nice bow here. Will you guys wait 4 months for me to join? Yes. No problem. No questions asked. So, and that will follow you for other people. As people go to other companies, your reputation will follow you, and that might lead to other opportunities as well for you.
So I do remember the aha, and I'm going to go right back to the name I already said, Tom Peters. I remember Tom Peters saying, if you spend all of your time as a manager helping your people with their resume so that they can make more money, they can do better work, and they can leave the company, those people will never leave, or they will try not to leave. And by the way, if they do leave, they will help you make connections between their new company and your company, because they want to work with you.
Yep.
On the other side, most managers, by every report I've ever seen, spend a lot of time keeping their direct reports down so that they look better. And those people want to leave immediately.
Nope. Like, I learned from a manager. She ended up being in the C-suite at BlackRock. I remember her saying to me, I was her executive assistant at the time I was in grad school. She said to me, I hire people who are smarter than I am. Why should I be the smartest person in the room? These guys make me look good.
That's
and
fabulous.
I never forgot that. Right. You do have a lot of managers who want to be like the smartest person in the room. And the fact that she had the opposite philosophy stuck with me from my 20s to now. And I think that's really important, that you build your team. I love people who are smarter than me. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room doing all the things. That's what you guys are here for.
It's such a growth mentality, and so cool. Jesse, what's a time that you saw somebody make their career?
Yeah. Two quick comments. The phrase that you guys, I thought when you guys were talking there, servant leadership, is that, are you guys familiar with that phrase? But it really is, like, my role as a manager is to try to make sure that the people who I'm managing, that they are successful. And if there are multiple layers of management involved, like let's say I'm the senior manager and then they're all junior managers to further people below them, their job is to make sure that the people below them are successful. And there are a lot of really good organizations that are kind of built on that idea, that everybody's job is just to make sure that the people who work for them, that they can find success themselves. Just like you said, Joe, it breeds great culture. But then there was another idea I had. Let me see if it'll come back to me.
Oh boy.
It might not. It might not. Oh, I know what it was. Thank you, Sandy. Likability. Here's a cool thing I learned recently. This isn't me in my own study, but there was a really cool study done on like high schoolers, and it kind of had to do with like popularity and likability. And what was the number one correlated thing they found that makes people likable? What was it? Was it being good looking? Was it being athletic? Was it being funny? No. The people who are the most likable are the people who like the most other people. So, right, if you're the kind of person who goes around and you say like, oh, Joe, like Joe's a great guy. I love hanging out with Joe. Oh, Bobby, he's kind of quiet. Sometimes he's like kind of snaps at people, but I like him. I think he's a sweet guy. If you're the kind of person who can find a way to like other people, those people will tend to like you back. So if anyone out there is curious about becoming more likable, it kind of just has to do with you and your ability to enjoy spending time and like other people.
I'm screwed.
What was your original question? Yeah.
There's a reason you work for yourself, OG.
I like you, OG. It's okay.
But at times somebody made their career that you saw somebody do something that was just brilliant.
I mean, that's a good one. Brilliancy. Like, is it one act of brilliancy, or I mean, this is a boring answer, but some of the people who I feel like I've seen make the biggest careers for themselves, there's this consistency. There's this like unwavering consistency of, not that you have to be, for example, a workaholic, but one idea that does come to mind is this guy who's like, his goal was everyone else was working 9 to 5 and his goal was to work 6 to 6 every single day. And from the time we started together as engineers as like 23-year-olds to the time I left the firm 7 years later, he was always in working 6 to 6 every single day. And he didn't really rub it in. It's just that he got way more stuff done and he learned way more. And so again, it's not that I'm trying to promote this like workaholic culture, but it's that whatever you choose to do, if you can show true consistency over a long period of time, and make sure that your managers are aware of it, that becomes pretty hard to ignore.
Oh, gee, how about for you?
I was just thinking about it, in our industry, I thought I thought of a person that stuck very closely to their personal brand and just kind of repeated the same thing over and over again. I think a good example of that is Morgan Housel. He's not trying to be the next, day trader. He's not trying to, figure out what the next stock pick is that's going to blow up, but just repeatable, predictable, good, solid financial planning advice over and over and over again. And now everybody knows the name. Everybody has he was a blogger, right, for a long time. And now everybody has his books on their shelf who's, in the finance space, and people who aren't have obviously bought a lot of his books, and very well respected person by just saying like, this is what I believe. I'm going to say it very simply, and I'm going to say it over and over and over again. And this is, so there's no confusion about who he is. You know what I mean? Like you know what you're getting.
There's something for that reliability and consistency as well, right?
Yeah.
That means people can really depend on you.
Yeah.
And that's important.
About, like all of a sudden some weird direction, he's not going to be chasing Chinese penny stocks all of a sudden or something like that.
Well, and Sandy, also to your point, it's also, I love how it's the opposite of what OG said in the first half, which was the person who's like showing up as somebody different every 3 weeks or every month or every 2 months, or every couple of years, that if they're consistently, I am this person. Well, Jesse, it really goes to yours too, right? About the guy that shows up same time every day, does the same thing. Like, I remember going back to the beginning of the year and Alex Harmozy saying, be useful, there's somebody who's useful and people want to take the job to you because you're useful. That person's getting promoted. I saw a woman when I was at American Express who created a job for herself. She saw a need in the company, and she not only presented that need to her bosses, she literally said, here's how this role would look. Here's what it would do. And I think I'm the person who's uniquely created to fill the role. She made such a great business case using, as we talked about on Monday, using data using data and showing how we could have a bigger impact on clients if this role existed. She created a whole job for herself, and a great paying job, and like a whole new spot that American Express wasn't paying attention to. It was pretty badass to see at a major company like American Express, a woman create out of the blue just a brand new role that was perfect for her.
So what she did though, Joe, was she found a gap and created a solution and presented it.
I thought for sure you were going to say zipped it up.
Missed opportunity, right?
Yes. Do you see that a lot though, Sandy?
It's harder to do it, I think, now than ever before.
Sure.
But if you absolutely can, and not only just finding the gap, but coming up with the solution is also very important, not just waving the flag. But that's also what people do, I think, when you have people who are like finding vulnerabilities in systems and things like that, in software, etc. They find the gap and they suggest the solution as well. And you're suddenly this hero. So if you're looking for the one big, a big event, that might be something that might be one big event that can really catapult your career.
Like the takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doug, have you seen, did you have one you were thinking of?
I got nothing, Joe.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Dugg's still stuck in the zipper.
I also had one more, and this was during the interview. I went to apply for, when I was in college, I went to apply to be a disc jockey at this place called USA Cafe. I played retro, like 50s and 60s music, and served burgers and fries and stuff, and became a nightclub later on the evenings, and they were hiring new DJs. So I showed up, and there were maybe 8 people there, and the hiring manager comes out and goes, "Hey, totally optional, but does anybody want to like dress up like Elvis right now and grab this guitar and just perform for this little group of people?" There were maybe 12 people in the, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So the lunch crowd is just beginning to come in, and said, "Does anybody, totally optional, does anybody dress up like Elvis Presley and do this fake guitar riff right now?" And all of us, except 2 people, went, "Yeah, I'll pass. Yeah, I just want to get to the interview." And he goes, "Okay, those 2 people said they'd do it. You're staying, you're hired, and everybody else is gone." And I was like, think like the hiring manager, like think about the other side of the table. And I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people that by thinking more like the person who's trying to solve the problem at work that is not your problem, but their problem, and trying to think more like them, you immediately make huge waves. I
did that inadvertently once, Joe, without.
Did you?
Yeah. I was living in London and didn't have a job, and a friend back here in the States who was pretty senior with Xerox got me an interview in London, selling copiers. I mean, just, grunt work, hitting the pavement, as entry level as it got there. And they set up the interviews back. They were doing crazy stuff in the 80s with interview, crazy questions and weird approaches. And they did good cop, bad cop. And while the good cop was asking a question, the bad cop would interrupt and be a total jerk about it. And be really high pressure on me and almost be mean to me. And it just sucked. The whole thing sucked. And I decided, I don't want to work here. This is not where I want to work. So they get to the very end, we get through it. And then they broke character. And they go, "Oh, okay, well, we're glad that's over. We were just pressuring you a little bit to see how you reacted. How'd you like that?" And I went, "I hated that. That was awful." They offered me a job because they just wanted somebody to be honest. I found out after the words with the guy back here in the States who kind of set the whole thing up, was like, they loved you because you were one of the few people who said, I'm like, well, great, but I'm never working with them. So
but you're not
part of that.
You don't want to play the game.
Don't want to be Elvis in the jumpsuit. Nope. Actually, I would love to do that gig.
You totally would have loved that gig. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this gig, speaking of gigs, that ends this week. Thank you guys for helping us round out our career branding week. I think those cautionary tales and then some of those great things people did to make their careers a big help to a lot of our stackers. Let's find out what's happening where you are. OG, got big plans this fine weekend?
As a matter of fact, yeah, today's a big day for 3rd graders. every year the third graders get to do this. They think they're going on a field trip, and instead what they find out when they get at the park is that they are on the Oregon Trail. And they get wagons, and they have to go through all the stuff that they've learned about the Oregon Trail, and they run into, bears and robbers and, and the sheriff and, all the stuff. And so all the parents are, in different.
Does one kid get dysentery?
I was about to.
They do have a lot of that stuff. I mean, I don't really remember it that well from the boys, but anyways, so we're doing that today. It's a big surprise for the third graders, which is really fun.
That's awesome.
And then tomorrow is Alex's birthday, so he is officially a man tomorrow, according to him.
That's fantastic. And I saw his Facebook post about going to Texas A&M. So
Yep.
We've
gotten some pretty cool emails about that too already. Somebody sent me a list of steak restaurants, so that's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, we'll have our guest of honor, a fantastic guest of honor, go last, but also fantastic. Jesse Cramer, what's going on at Personal Finance for long-term investors?
We are releasing an episode soon with Bill Yount from Catching Up to Fi. And then last week, I think we released our 6th AMA episode to some good success with an emergency tariff episode in there too. So we've had some fun episodes recently.
Wait, you've had to create some emergency tariffs?
Is that it feels like it. It feels like it.
10% premium on the cost of your podcast?
Yeah. 10% of zero is
5, so it is a much better deal now at 10. Tomorrow it's going to be 190.
If you don't watch it, it'll be 190. And that's where people consume Finer podcast. Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors. We'll link to it in the show notes. Sandy Smith, thank you so much for your expertise today. And oh my goodness, that was just the tip of the iceberg of the stories that you've seen. I remember one about drug abuse that was kind of disconcerting.
Was that the one who I put on a one-way plane ticket, or the one who threw up in the boss's new apartment?
Well, actually, I know both of those, but the one you put on the plane ticket home because they were too busy doing cocaine, I think, to actually attend the company event
and trash the hotel room. Yeah. I've got some stories. Emily Guy Birkin says she should ghostwrite my stories because I've got so many up my sleeves. Tales from HR.
Oh my good. Well, she's the top person to partner with if you're writing something.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, tell us about the conference, because people can now, I believe this week you're going to be opening it up and people can sign up.
Yeah, always free and online, lining up some speakers and things. So Elevate, again, always is about intersectionality and always with a focus on finance and money and financial education and literacy, because I feel like that is one of the ways that people can change their entire lives. I've always spoken many times about how mine has been changed through financial literacy for sure. So I want to continue to empower. Specifically, this year would be Black women with financial education and information that they can utilize, which I think is very timely. That's just the niche that I'm focusing on this year. So go to elevatethe92%.com. You'll get more information as speakers are announced, that you'll see who the speakers are. Always useful and timely information that people can then apply to their own lives, because it's nice to speak in theory, but you walk away with theory, and if you have no action items, then it doesn't make sense, right? So
it's not about what you know, it's about what you do.
Exactly, and putting it into place right now. So Joe's known me for a very, very long time. I started out life minus 200,000 plus net worth. Now it's 7 figures on my own. So you can definitely change your life, and I want to continue helping other people change theirs.
Not changing
as well.
Just your life, the people around you's lives.
The people around. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not just intergenerational wealth, but community wealth too, which is super important. And we'll link to it on the show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. All right.
And there are always more Tales from HR stories if you want to see how employees behaving badly. Yeah.
That's the name of your book, Employees Behaving Badly.
If, from your lips to God's ears, because there's
That's a
lots
good
of
one.
stories out there, and I have to wait for different NDAs to expire so I can share more and more stuff.
And that's how you know you'll get continuing content from Sandy Smith.
Yes.
All right, that's going to do it for today. Thanks to everybody hanging out with us on YouTube. Normally, we're here on later in the afternoon on Wednesdays, about around 5 p.m. Eastern time. Or Jesse, it's around 4 p.m. Eastern time, usually, right? 4 p.m.
Correct.
Eastern. I almost got my time zones wrong. So you can reliably find us then if you want to hang out and say hello, like we've got several people hanging out with us today. Thank you so much. Doug ends our Friday show and our week by informing us on what are the 3 things that should be on our big to-do list now.
Well, Joe, first, if you're someone who looks at your job like it's a singles bar with better lighting, take some advice from Jesse. What was that again, Jesse?
If you want to be a leader, don't be a bleeder.
Okay. Second, Sandy said Michael Scott on The Office had the right idea by focusing all his efforts on being likable. I get it, right, Sandy? Did I nail that?
Zipped it right up.
Come on. What do you guys... But the big lesson... Speaking of career-ending missteps, remember your P's and Q's. Mom just tried to fire me because I forgot to thank her for telling me to unplug the toilet. Jeez. Thanks to Sandy Smith for joining us today. Check out her latest project on elevateth92%.com. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Jesse Cramer for hanging out with us today. You'll find his amazing podcast, Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors, wherever you listen to finer podcasts with really long names. And thanks also to OG for joining us today. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com. OG for his calendar.
We did it. Thank you so much, everybody on YouTube. We're going to say goodbye to you guys. Contributors hang out for just 1 second. See you later. Thanks for hanging out.